Alright, welcome to another episode of FS Detail Garage. We got the welded diff out. You can see it over there. Got the new diff here on the jack. We're about to stick it in. I had one of the studs on the drive shaft was slightly askew, so I just knocked it out of there because it's just a pressed bolt. So I just kind of got it out of my way because it was going to cause me some major issues trying to jam that in there. So let's get after it. So try to get your tail shaft here lined up to the drive shaft so that when you go to raise this up, pretty much have everything relatively aligned. As we go up, we're just going to inch our way forward. We're going to be using the diff bushing over here as kind of a guide. Then we're going to just tuck our drive line back just a bit. It's got some play in it, so you can kind of move it around a bit. Okay, once you get it up there, you're just going to simply slide, well, maybe not so simply, but you're going to attempt to get the drive shaft into the flange, and there we go. Okay, and like I said, I had one that fell out, or well, not fell out, but was askew, so I knocked it out. I have to reinstall it, but before I do that, I'm going to put the nuts on these studs here, so that none of this comes back apart. Okay, once you get the stud slipped in there, there we go. Put your nut on it. And this stud is also keyed too, so make sure that when you put your nut on it, you have it in the flat to the flat side. So you want to see the round side, you don't want to see the flat side. And then when you go to tighten this, it's just going to pull itself in. And also to ensure that you can move the drive line, which if you've already pulled your differential out, you're probably already aware, you have to have the car in neutral to spin this. Okay, so now that we have our bolts on those studs, that's relatively secure. We're going to go right into putting the bolts into the diff bushings. Okay, so now we're going to jack up the diff even further, and we're going to raise this up into here, and we're going to shove our bolt in there, which is this one. Once we have that done, this thing's going to be relatively secured up in there. You can still keep the jack under it and everything, but then you can be a little bit more at ease without nothing falling on you. So just line up the hole, make sure you have a washer on this side, and then when you put your nut on, you'll have another washer on this side. May have to wiggle the jack around just a bit to get your bolt to go in. There we go. And again, washer on the side with the nut as well. Okay, now you're pretty secure in there. Don't have to worry about it really falling on you, but still use the jack to support it because the supporting bolts are not in here yet, and you're going to have to use the jack to kind of get those lined up as well. So the next step is you need to mount this bolt in there. And then once you get that mounted in, there's another bolt that you need to put up here. But you will not be able to align that one until you get that front bolt in. Hang on, I've misplaced my bolt. Okay, so there's two bolts that will be up here. There's one on the other side as well. There you go. And also you're going to want to put some thread lock on there too. I'm going to use some blue. I've already got it put in there. Now I'm just going to get some thread lock and I'll put it on the threads there when I thread it all the way in. So you're going to repeat the same procedure on the other side. It looks exactly the same. So one bolt here, one bolt there, and then on the other side you'll find two more just like that, and that's basically what holds this thing into the subframe. Then once you've done that, I had to actually remove this bolt here so that I could wiggle the diff around, or remove the nut here. We'll put that back on. And basically once you get this done, you're pretty much done. You'll be tightening those, putting the axle shafts on, and then you'll tighten the drive shaft to the tail shaft, tighten up your axles, and tighten up your diff bushing here, and you're basically good to go. So we're gonna get onto the other side real quick. Okay, now we're on to the other side, and again you need to get that bolt first. Once you get that one mounted in, you'll then be able to go up to the top side here, and you'll be able to showing you in the right area here. It's hard to see. Everything's in my way. So you can see where we put the other bolt in. You're going to put the other one in right up there too. So I'm actually going to put the camera down so I can install this one. Then I'll show you guys here in a second what it looks like once it's installed. Okay, so we have both of them in. Don't forget your washers. Then you're just going to simply run them down. Then you will end up taking a 19mm box end and start cranking them down. These ones are a little bit difficult. You can only turn the wrench so far, so just be patient. Get them nice and snug though. Again, Don't forget to use Loctite on them. So that's that. I've tightened it a little more. Don't forget to tighten the one that's back over here. Back in there, you're going to tighten that one up too. Okay, now we're going to tighten up the diff bushing. It's going to be a 19 millimeter on both sides. And again, making sure that it is nice and snug. Okay, now we will move on to the drive shaft, and we'll tighten up those bolts. Again, to rotate the drive shaft, you're going to have the car in neutral. And you're also going to have to, you'll only be able to do 2 bolts at a time. So you'll do the bottom 2, then you will, you have to have the car in gear doing that. So you're going to actually be in first gear, and then you're going to have the e-brake on, tighten those up. Then you're going to get back out from underneath the car. You're going to let the e-brake go, and you're going to pull the car out of gear, put it in neutral, get back under the car, spin the drive shaft to the 2 bolts that you have not done yet. Then get back up into the car, put the car back in first gear, set the e-brake again, get back under the car, and now you can tighten the bolts so that nothing spins on you. Okay, so now we tighten these up, and I realized that I told you to set the e-brake, but that's only if you have your axle shafts attached right now, and it would just help. Right now you could only rely on the transmission being in gear holding it. So tighten up all these, both of them. Once you get those tightened, you're going to get back out from underneath the car and pull the car, or pull the stick out of first into neutral, spin this drive shaft back to the 2 you haven't done, put it back into gear, tighten these back up. Okay, so I now have these 2 tight. Just going to grab the drive shaft back here, and we're just going to spin it to expose the 2 we have not tightened. Get those right about there. Now I'm going to get back out underneath the car here and put it into first gear to lock it so that I can tighten them.